Welcome to Wash Talk, the Carwash Podcast. I'm your host, Rich DiPaolo, and joining me today is Stewart McClintic, owner of HQ98.com. Stu, great to see you today.
Nice to see you, Rich.
Yeah, so important at the car wash to have open communication, right? It's no hidden secret that car washes, there's a lot of moving parts, not only in the car wash equipment, cleaning the actual vehicles, but anytime there's moving cars or cars that are stopping and starting and patrons and employees walking around the lot, there's obviously going to be an elevated risk of accidents occurring. So I know you work in the two-way radio space, and certainly that can help keep open lines of communication with staff. So wanted to get you on the program today to discuss the use of two-way radios in the car wash environment. But Stu, before we get into those questions, I'd like to learn a little bit more about your background and your company, as I mentioned, HQ98.com.
Sure. So I am a former journalist. I used to write for a small town newspaper in New Mexico. And I eventually quit that because I just didn't get along with my editor. And my dad used to be the owner of this company, and me and my business partner ended up buying it from him. He was getting of retirement age, and I decided I didn't really want to do anything else. So I was like, yeah, let's buy this. Let's do this. I can't imagine doing anything else. Honestly, I never thought I'd be selling walkie-talkies or two-way radios. But yeah, it's been a good business. We sell to, obviously a lot of car washes, all over the nation, and a bunch of different industries, including dental offices and, mostly on-site communication. So nothing too crazy, but these aren't the walkie-talkies you used to use as a kid playing in the backyard. These things can definitely, get you a little bit further than that. So,
well, I look forward to hearing more. Yeah, these aren't your grandfather's walkie-talkies, I'm sure. And just on your point of being a journalist, I happen to be my own editor to my own writing, and I often don't get along with myself. So that's good to hear that background. I appreciate you going into that. But let's talk about those two-way radios a little bit. How can the integration of two-way radios enhance communication and coordination among car wash staff? And what specific challenges do they help to overcome, as I mentioned earlier in the interview, in these busy car wash environments that we see?
Sure. So it's funny that we were doing this today because I actually just had one of my car wash people walk in today for a reprogram. And him and I were chatting about that a little bit. And he said, it's super important to be able to instantly talk to anybody on your staff, even though car washes generally aren't too big. It eliminates having to, go hunt somebody down when you need to ask them a question. As long as they've got a walkie-talkie on them and they've got an earpiece in, you can get a hold of anybody anywhere in within your facility, or on your site. This can help with letting the next, employee know that, hey, there's a car coming out of the tunnel. The customer wants this done or this done. Or, in case, God forbid, that there is an accident, somebody's going to see it. Somebody's going to be able to get on that radio and just say, hey, this is going down over here. We need help. We need A, B, C, and then there's not going to be as much scramble, to kind of get a hold of somebody, in a dire situation. But mostly, they're used for just, hey, what's going on with this car? Or, hey, I need help over here. Or I don't think you can have too little communication in a space like a car wash. So,
And communicating the right way is important, right? It's unbecoming to the customer if the staff is shouting at each other.
Yeah.
It's much easier if there's a microphone and an earpiece and they can speak at a normal tone or a conversation tone as opposed to screaming, right?
Exactly. And I think that kind of helps keep the customer at ease. It creates a better experience for them. Because as you pointed out, if you've got a bunch of guys yelling across and back and forth from each other, it's going to be, car wash is already a noisy place. That's just going to make it noisier. So
for sure. Well, there's certainly a lot of uses where two-way radio would be important in the car wash operation. But are there any situations that you notice where two-way radios maybe are not recommended? And if so, when and why?
The only thing I can think of is, if there's a critical piece of information that needs to be shared, I wouldn't necessarily say, you wouldn't use them. I would just say throw an earpiece in, because there's some pieces of information that need to stay among staff. So I don't think there's a situation that wouldn't call for the device itself, but I think there would just be a modification to the device. So, if there's like a special needs car, or, there's a piece of client information, that needs to be passed around, you don't need that broadcast all over the air. So just throwing an earpiece into the mix, I think, helps eliminate, maybe some potential privacy issues. So, that's the only thing that I would think of would be a privacy concern, but that can be fixed very easily. So,
all right. Now we talked about at the top here, these two-way radios are not the version that your grandfather or father, so many generational car washes in this business, that they were using in the car wash in maybe the 60s, 70s, 80s, and forward. So with the advancements in technology, and certainly it's moving at a rapid pace here, but technology is always evolving. So with advancements in technology, what features or innovations in modern two-way radios are most beneficial to car wash businesses, and how do they contribute to, let's say, a smoother workflow or even customer satisfaction?
Sure. So there's, at its base level, radio technology hasn't changed in, 40, 50 years. There are newer, better types of signals out there, but it's still, at its base level, it's still a walkie-talkie. Newer radios tend to come in like a waterproof version. That, I think, is something that's super helpful for car washes. So, if you have to go down in the tunnel, you don't have to worry about your equipment getting wet or breaking just because it's got a little moisture on it. Newer types of signal is called a digital signal. It's going to help prevent interference. It's going to help get through interferences, like walls, and it helps with the machinery. A digital signal gets you a lot better audio quality, a lot better clarity. So things like that are kind of at the forefront of radios nowadays, compared to a traditional analog signal, which might die a little bit quicker once it hits like a wall or maybe even a piece of machinery. In terms of newer technology, again, it's not necessarily new technology, but it's sort of rehashed in a different manner. I don't know if you remember the old Nextel phones that had the push to talk and all that. That's sort of resurfacing, but not in the form of Nextel. It's just called push to talk over cellular. So maybe if there's somebody who doesn't own a physical location, like like a car wash, and they're more into detailing, and they've got a mobile detailing unit, and they have somebody sitting in a home office, up the street or like across the town, I think a push to talk over cellular device would be really good. So if you need to have like a dispatch employee type situation where you need to get on the radio with them instantly and say, hey, after this, I need you to get here, or hey, I need to get you here, to get to the next client. So I think for a mobile detailing, that would be super helpful. And then it also has the ability to, you can track them with GPS. So, where your employees are going. Hopefully we trust our employees a little bit more than that, but, at least you can keep them on task, so to speak, and kind of monitor what's going on. Outside of that, that's really the newest thing I can think of. And those can certainly help help in a lot of situations, even on like a larger car wash. But a push to talk over cellular, that is going to be a subscription based model. So there is going to be a monthly fee per radio, where a traditional walkie doesn't have any monthly fees. It's kind of a one and done. You buy it outright. That's yours. You have it for, until it breaks, essentially. So.
Yeah. And the trend these days is operators are owning more than one location. And I actually met with an operations manager last year. He had just bought a new car and he had thousands of miles on it already, and it was only a month old. It's because he was driving to all these different locations. Maybe a push to talk solution would have been good for him in that situation. But
yeah, he can just get on and talk to whoever he needs to. And those radios are really cool too, because you can do, hundreds of channels, and you can have each location broken off into their own. And then you can even have something like, maybe in his situation, a master radio that says, okay, I need to call this location, or okay, I need to call this location. They're super versatile and super easy to use too. Their user interface is a lot more friendly for programming than a traditional walkie is too. So I think there are a lot of large scale operations that could benefit from something like that as well.
Yeah. And you mentioned, there's a bit of a subscription ongoing cost with it, or an ongoing cost with it. But again, it could be negligible if you're saving on gas and time and all that other stuff going from one location to the next, right?
And they even have some, so the ones that I'm thinking of specifically, it looks like a traditional walkie, but Motorola is just coming out with some new called the TLK25. That thing's really cool. It's maybe about that size. It's an oval. It actually just works over Wi-Fi. You don't even need cellular as long as you've got a good Wi-Fi signal. These things will work as well, and they can all tie into the same system. So you can mix and match these sorts of things as well to kind of tailor to your needs. So
it's awesome to know. All right, well, let's talk about putting these into the employees' hands, right? Are there any, in terms of staff training or onboarding, how do car wash businesses ensure that employees are proficient in using these two-way radios and push-to-talk devices effectively?
That is a great question. I honestly wouldn't know the answer to that because, for the most part, radios are a very simple mechanism. There's a volume knob, there's a channel knob, and there's a push-to-talk button. I think just kind of having oversight is the most efficient way. So for a lot of our car wash clients, I think if we're talking efficiency, programming is a huge part of it. So at least from my perspective, I know a lot of our clients tend to have just a single channel radio, or we make sure there's only one channel or two channels, just so there's no error for people to, go and mess around really on other channels and have side conversations. If you program them the right way to kind of limit where you can go with them, or to limit how many channels are available to your employees, there's going to be a lot less, to use an old term, tomfoolery.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. In terms of training and proficiency, for the most part, it's a walkie-talkie. Should be pretty easy to use. There are some that have some really complicated, fun features, but nothing that a car wash would ever need. It's mostly just push the button, talk, get a hold of the person you need to. I think, actually, to that effect, I think I think replacing cell phones with a walkie-talkie does make people more efficient. So, you have less to do on a walkie than you would a cell phone, where a modern day cell phone has apps and internet and phone and text and all these things that are just unnecessary to do the job. So I think getting a more simplistic form of communication will really help with efficiency. So.
Yeah, and you put those apps in those cell phones in the workers' hands, and then they're focusing more on the tomfoolery, as you like to say, and less on the job. So that's a great point there. So as you look toward the future of this business here, these devices, Stu, are there any new technologies or features or options? You certainly mentioned a couple here today, but are there any more on the horizon in these communication devices that our listeners should be mindful of?
I think that's about it. I think what I've already mentioned, like the push to talk over cellular, that seems to be the way of things, and I can imagine as more of that floods the market, the less expensive it will get over the years. I think that's the one that I'm most excited about, because I've tested these out where I've got a radio sitting here in our office in Scottsdale, and I've got somebody out in New York, and I push the button and him and I talk together, and it's absolutely amazing. Because with a cell phone, you got to call and maybe they'll answer and maybe they won't, or you shoot a text and you have to wait. Like a radio, it's so instant. It's something we don't get nowadays. Is that instantaneous push to talk communication. And to be able to talk to anybody, I mean, with certain ones, you could literally talk to somebody across the world as long as they have a good Wi-Fi connection, and one of these devices. So they're really incredible, and I think that's the biggest push that walkies have had in the past 20 years is push to talk over. I said cellular, but it's really over internet protocol. So ROIP, radio over IP, is what it's called. That has just been such an incredible push to the industry, because I think that's how it's going to change. Now the argument is that if your Wi-Fi goes down, you're kind of SOL, but there are traditional walkies still, and those don't require an internet protocol to be able to communicate. So I think they're both useful in their own respects. But yeah, I think that's the one that I'm most excited about is just more, push to talk over cellular or internet. So
yeah, that threat of Wi-Fi going out, car washes are so technologically advanced nowadays that if Wi-Fi goes out, there might be more problems over the communication devices. Simply running the car wash might be a challenge these days, right? So
exactly, yeah. So it's pick your battle too, because yeah, exactly. Because with a traditional walkie, you could literally go just a little bit too far, and you have no communication, just like that. So it's right. You little column A, little column B. Which one do you really want to go with? Traditional will be a little more reliable, in my opinion. But push talk over cellular is pretty damn cool. So,
all right. Well, we certainly covered a lot here, Stu. I guess car washers and detailers who are interested in hearing more about your company, they can go over to hq98.com. Is that the URL we're pushing people to?
Just hq98.com. No, I'm pretty simple. Just go ahead and reach out to us. We've got a chat program on there. I'm on the other end of it if you have any questions. We've also got a phone number at the top of our website. So give us a call, shoot us a text, or shoot us a chat, sorry. And yeah, we'd be happy to help you assess your communications needs. So.
All right, Stu, thanks for taking some time to join me on this podcast episode.
Thanks, Rich. It's been a pleasure.